This short video addresses some of the key things that can be done to get the most out of your end of course evaluation. So this is the feedback that you receive from the students. To start off with, it's really important that we maximize the amount of feedback that we get from students. So what we need to do is ensure that we express to the students the importance of end of course feedback. We need to take some time from class to actually explain it to them as far as why we do end of course evaluations, but we need to ensure the relevancy in that this will help the course itself, and this might help them as well because it gives them a chance to sort of reflect on what they've learned, and plus they might have you as an instructor in the future as well. So we need to ensure that the student knows that this will help the course, that this will help them, and that this will help their fellow students as well, because there's going to be other students that come in afterwards to take the course in the future. Additionally, it's really important to tell the students how this information is used. Tell them that you are going to go through it and observe it and read through it, that it's 100% anonymous, and that you're going to use that information to improve yourself as well as to improve the course. That leadership goes through there. There might be changes made to the student learning objectives, to the course structure, all these different things that are affected based off of their feedback. Again, to help the students know that their feedback is very important and it gets used in the right way in order to enhance the educational experience for everyone. An additional recommendation would be to take some specific time in class to give the students specific time to be able to complete the end of course evaluation. The end of course evaluation can be done on a cell phone. It can be done in a computer lab. You could let them go early so that they do it on their own, but oftentimes they end up spending that time for something else. So the more that we can do that in class, the more likely it'll be that they'll actually complete it. So that's an important part of it as well. Another important thing is before you actually go through and review the end of course evaluations, you should take this time to reflect, to think about how the course actually went. One recommendation is to write just a short one-page review, a report, an essay, if you will, that just simply is a reflection of how you think the course went. So if you had issues with certain students, if you had issues with an event that might have occurred during the semester, maybe there was a natural disaster, maybe there was conflict, anything, write that down in your reflection. Talk about situations that occurred in class. Talk about maybe you started to use some different some techniques, instructional techniques, or you introduced something new in the courseware. All these things you should write out in your short little reflection to give you sort of an analysis in itself as far as what went on within that semester. If you had problems with certain students, if you had issues with yourself, maybe there was some personal issue, write that all out. That way it'll give you sort of a standpoint from which to look at the actual feedback that you get from students. So if you can identify some things here, then that will help you to see the feedback that much better. So again, a reflective statement, just a one-pager that goes through and gives your opinion before you're exposed to the feedback. That will be very helpful to look at all of the different feedback from a good perspective. At this point, you take the overall end of course evaluation feedback, and then you go through it. You go through and review all the content. So now what you're getting is both qualitative and quantitative feedback. So the quantitative feedback would be just their specific selection, what they did within the course, what they thought about the course. Now you have that information. Again, end of course evaluation is a data point. It isn't the final say on anything. It's just a data point. It's important for us to look at multiple data points in order to get the best perspective, the best overall picture of how that course went. So we look at the quantitative information, see their thoughts there, and then it's very important to also look at the qualitative information, where we have areas where they can put in their comments, their open feedback on their thoughts, their feelings, how they experience the overall course. Of course, you're going to get some students that just complain about different things, but it's important to look at that to see and think about, well, why did they write this? One specific comment isn't really enough to change your course, but the important thing is to look at all the comments and then to see, is there a pattern? Is there something that we can identify with trends? Maybe not just in this specific semester, but then look at previous semesters as well. Do we see a pattern? Do we see a trend? Because that's the key information that we can take and then decide, okay, how can we move forward? Maybe I do need to look at this. Is there an issue going on with the courseware? Is there an issue going on with the way that I'm expressing it? Do I need to spend more time on a specific subject before moving on? Maybe I need to change the type of activities that we're doing. Do I need to look at the assignment? Maybe the rubric needs to be modified. All these things can come out of that feedback. So that's why it's really important to look at the quantitative and the qualitative information and then see about trends and patterns. Now that we have AI as a tool, we can use it to help us in the overall process of end of course evaluations. There's a couple of different things that we can do. One thing that we can do is we can feed the AI, like ChatGPT, we can feed it our end of course evaluation directly. We could give it that information and then it could help us to analyze the overall feedback. So this can be done in a couple of different ways. One way would just be to grab all that feedback and then put it in the AI. Now, when you do that, you have to be very careful because, of course, this is somewhat sensitive information. You have to make sure that there are no comments as far as them putting in their name or their email address. So all personal information is to make sure to be removed, as well as if any comment is extremely personal, we might think twice before we feed that into the AI. Again, choosing the right AI, one that is protected, one that specifically states in the terms of service that they won't resell the information or anything like that. So after choosing a good AI, you could feed it the comments, and then it could help you analyze by giving you information such as what are the themes, what are some of the different categories that come up. Again, this can help you to give you some analysis as far as the overall feedback that came from the end of course evaluations. Another great way to use the AI as a tool to getting the most out of your end of course evaluations is to use it as an instructional designer. Because once you go through it and once you've looked at it and seen that there are some trends or there are some patterns, you might identify certain things, like if students are complaining or they're commenting about a specific activity that you do or a specific topic that you teach. You can then turn to the AI and ask it directly to assist you with that issue. You can tell the AI, and I'll provide some prompts in here, of what to do. How can I improve this situation? Again, working with that AI, giving it these different things that you're trying to figure out, asking it questions, and then working with the AI to develop new instructional techniques, new instructional activities, learning activities, so that your students can get the most out of the instruction, the most out of that experience. By putting all these things together, we can get a lot out of these end of course evaluations. Again, I want to make sure that we all understand that end of course evaluations isn't everything. It's just a data point. It's really important that we do other things besides the end of course evaluation in order to get the overall best picture. Things like that reflective statement before we even look at the end of course evaluations, additional things like peer evaluations where you have other instructors, other peers come in, sit down and do an evaluation for you. You could also get the Center for Teaching and Learning to come in to sit in on one of your presentations, one of your classes, so that they can give you an evaluation, as well as your leadership. You should have either program chairs or deans come in, sit down and observe your teaching in order to give you an evaluation as well, or at least an observation. So putting all these different things together will then give us the best overall picture of the teaching and learning, the overall educational experience within your course. Use the infographic that's also provided in order to get the best overall feedback and best useful information from the end of course evaluations.